And welcome into Blitzalytics Top 5 Prospects Series. Today we will be covering the top 5 safeties of the 2020 draft class. I'm here with Cody Manning, Roy Countryman. Gentlemen, how are we doing today?
I'm doing pretty good. Just ready to talk some safeties, get away from the outside world, and not try to think about all this mop of hair I got right now on top of me.
You and me both, man. I haven't had a haircut since the combine. It's getting pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, we're doing all right for not looking like Big Ben. So let's hope this quarantine ends at some point and we can all go get our hair cut and look purty again.
I wish I could have a beard like that. I'm all patchy. Like, it doesn't grow right here or right here. It's all like, it's not Joe Dirt anymore, but it used to be.
I think
right
it's close.
there with you.
I think
I hadn't
next year
shaved yet. Go ahead, Roy.
I think next year I'm going to go for that look, for the scouting look. I'm just going to have a full-on beard. We're going to see who can rock it amongst our scouting staff, is who can have the sweetest.
I feel like
I could
Ben
have had
hasn't.
it going. I go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't think Ben shaved since he got injured. Like, that's what that looks like to me. That thing, like, it's like gone. I mean, it's huge, man. If he straightened it, it'd probably be to his knees.
He's taking up the mantle for Brett Kiesel, so somebody's got to have the big beard in Pittsburgh.
Very true.
Yeah, I had it all grown out since yesterday, but I knew we were going to record today. I'm like, I guess I'll shave.
I don't know, man. We're not the only ones. Most of the analysts, most of these draft guys, I mean, just media in general are shooting from home. I mean, just this is what the quarantine has kind of done to us. This is what COVID is forced us into, and content's been just as good. So, I mean, no complaints here. But I ain't shaving for a while. All right, we're gonna be jumping into the top 5 prospects at the safety position. But before I do, a quick question for you guys: how many safeties do you think can go in the top 5? There's so many positions that are just stacked this year that I think talent is going to fall this year more than years ever. Cody, how many how many safeties do you see going inside the first round?
I think at least one. There are some teams that need safeties in the back of the first. I can definitely see 2. I really don't see more than 2, to be honest. Maybe it would be a reach to say 3. I just think it's with this safety class, like, I mean, I got my number 1 guy who I think is the number 1 guy, but I can be argued for about 4 to 5 other guys, and I could understand why they could be the top safety. So with that being said, I think teams view that way, and I view them as, I think teams probably view them almost like we can get one of those guys in the second round. We don't have to reach on one, and you'll still get a guy that's probably, they're all pretty versatile in this class.
Yeah, he hit the nail on the head. It's versatility is all what this class is. A lot of guys do a lot of things really well, and 2 is the ideal number I think you're going to see in the first round. If you see a third, I think it's going to be the chess piece type that you might see them be able to play another position quite well, not just safety, and that'd be the reason why a third one would sneak in. But right now, 2 is what the ideal pick is. I'd be surprised if we see 3.
Yeah, there's some guys sneaking up the draft board, but we will talk about them here very shortly. Without further ado, let's jump on into it. At number 5, we have Ashton Davis, safety out of California University. Cody, take it away.
Yeah, Ashton came in as my number 5 safety in this class. It's somebody I fell in love with the process. I had a chance to look into him prior to our trip to the Senior Bowl this year, and that's really where my affinity for him came as a player. Unfortunately, he's been banged up in the process, so we didn't get to see him compete in the Senior Bowl, and we did not get to see him test at the combine. With that being said, he's a track athlete. He actually went to California as a walk-on to join their track and field team. And then he actually joined the football team after a tryout in the spring after his freshman year. And as a senior in track, he actually won the Pac-12 110-meter hurdle title, and he was named a second-team All-American, and he was also named the NCAA Indoor All-American in 60-meter hurdles. So he's a track athlete. and I think that transfers over to the field. As far as his on-field production as a freshman, he was named most valuable special teams player. He made a variety of plays. He had 25 tackles, 3 pass deflections, and 1 forced fumble. He ended up starting the last 3 games at cornerback, so he has experience at that position. His sophomore year, he was also named most valuable special teams player. He got around 33 tackles with an interception, not crazy numbers. And then you got to see what he got to do as a junior when he started playing more in the starting role. He played 13 games. He had 53 tackles, 4 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, and a fumble recovery. He ended up being named honorable mention All Pac-12 team that year. And then his senior year, he ended up playing 11 games. He had 55 tackles, so he was right around the same range of tackles, playing less than 2 games. And then you see him get the 2 interceptions, the 4 pass deflections, 2 fumble recoveries, and a forced fumble. And he was named the second team All Pac-12. And what I really like about it is, as we saw in his freshman and sophomore year, he got to play special teams, which is what I value, especially in defenders, because that means they can at least contribute as a rookie. And he's an experienced kick returner. He averaged 22.9 yards per return throughout his career. As far as things that he does well, I think he plays very physical. He'll come up and hit somebody. As we've been talking about, and I'm probably going to talk about for the majority of these guys, he's very versatile. I think he can be used all over within a defensive scheme, which will allow him to provide valuable snaps as a rookie. His athleticism is outstanding, and I think his track experience does transfer over to the field. He's very explosive. He can close space very quickly on guys. He can end running plays very, very quick. And then if you ever see like a little out route, he can get there really quick and stop them before they get the first down. And what I really like about him is, with him not coming in as a track athlete, and he doesn't really have that much experience at safety, I think that's a good thing. I think he's got room for growth, and if you get him underneath the right secondary coach, I think there's a lot of untapped potential with him as a player. Now, he does have a lot of things he does need to work on as far as his weaknesses. His play recognition, he can be hesitant at times when plays do develop. I want to see him increase his ball skills. I think he can have more production with his pass deflections and getting more interceptions. If he start recognizing routes and recognizing plays faster, I think he can use his speed to break on balls more often. And his zone coverage, you can understand, he kind of gets lost in open space if he doesn't have a guy around him. He can kind of move out of his assignment. And then as far as tackling, as much as he can fly up the field, sometimes he does take bad pursuit angles, and he can miss tackles. And his tackling form, like I said, this probably comes with the lack of experience. He just needs to break down more often. He can kind of fly up the field too fast sometimes. I don't know if you guys want to come in with anything that you see from him as a player.
Yeah, Cody, you described him very well here. What he does well is flash that athleticism that he has, the track background. He has the right temperament, as you said, being a core special teams player for the first 2 years. He's not afraid to come down and hit you in the mouth. Sometimes that's to his own detriment, because he'll look to make the big tackle or the big hit rather than breaking down and wrapping up a player. So for me, I actually like him as the deep third safety in zone. He does kind of, have some lacks in discipline in staying in certain lanes in zone, but his ability to trust his instincts and what he sees, it gets him around the play a lot of times. He needs to do a better job of converting some passes defensed into interceptions. He can come down with more turnover-worthy plays rather than just breaking up passes. But for me, I really like the player. You touched upon it. The upside is there because he doesn't have a lot of experience, but the athleticism is there. The instincts are there. The processing skills will improve with more experience playing on the deep third rather than playing corners, strong safety in a lot of different places. But he needs to tighten up those pursuit angles and breaking down in space and tackling, because he goes for the big hit way too many times rather than breaking down and securing a tackle.
I think you guys pretty much said it best, but if there's anything I can add to it, it's the football instincts. He's an athlete first and lacks the football instincts, like Cody had alluded to. He looks a little lost in zone coverage at times. Doesn't really have the play recognition yet. It just snaps. I mean, he lacks the snaps, and that to me, when a coach looks at that, all they see is upside. They don't see flaws, they see upside. He can do a lot with it. He can make up ground in a quickness. So what he lacks right now, just think of how much faster he's going to be able to get to the ball when he can read a play and diagnose everything in a split second and then get right after it. So he is a little over aggressive in the run game. Typically, it alludes to a highlight reel of a tackle and him taking somebody's head off. But when he can when he can slow down, square his hips, square his shoulders, and deliver a blow, it's going to make him that much better. I'm not saying that he's the best safety in this class, but when it's all said and done in 5 years, if he ends up being the best safety in this class, I wouldn't be surprised with the athleticism.
Yeah, definitely, and he is somebody our team's big fans of. As of right now, he is currently ranked 50th on the Blitzalytics board ranking, and it kind of shows where I think he will go. He is a day 2 prospect. I project him to go. I think he will go in the I think he's worthy of a second round pick. I do have my worries if because of this whole COVID-19 thing. I'm not sure how his medical's tested at the combine and if he would need a recheck just because he's been injured throughout this whole process. So I do wonder if that does push him down the board. But I could see teams like the Giants, the Dolphins, the Browns, even your Bucks, or the Broncos going after him, especially if the Broncos do not re-sign Justin Simmons to a long-term deal. I just think all those teams need help in the secondary, and I think a versatile piece like him, like Davis, could provide value, especially since you can line him up in a variety of different ways. As a rookie, I think he's going to be more of a special teams player. I think he could be used as a kick returner. I think he'd be used as a rotational player in the defensive back and be used in certain packages. Possibly he can work his way into the starting lineup by the end of the year. As far as his career floor, I think he'll at least be a special teams player and a returner at worst and be a rotational piece like he can provide as a rookie. But I see a Pro Bowl starting safety and a versatile piece within a defensive unit. And I'm sure, Jack, you're a Bucs fan, so I'm not sure if you agree with this, but my player comp for him was Justin Evans. Because when Justin Evans is on the field, he does make plays, but he just has a problem being healthy.
Yeah, those are all quality comments there. I see him right in the same range. I could see him falling to the 3rd round, as you said, because of the injury. I believe it was a groin injury he's been dealing with after the season. He had either surgery or he's just recuperating with it. So it would have to be something that's vetted. He hasn't had much injury questions outside of that. A team I would like to see him go to that would maybe give him a chance to develop after a year and become a starter is New England. They have Devin McCourty. It's on his last legs. Also Patrick Chung. But they got rid of a lot of their depth with Deron Harmon, trading him away. And they need a quality player that could come in on special teams, do well, and learn behind an established veteran as he's a little bit wet behind the ears, knowing that he needs that experience. I could see New England taking him, if he would drop into the 3rd round area. But for me, my player comp for him, it's a player. It's somewhat similar with a track background, not with the hurdling so much. But it's Sean Davis for the Steelers. He needed his instincts to develop, but he also played corner and then played safety for the Steelers after they drafted him in the 2nd round. High athletic prowess, high upside, but he needed a lot more experience. And he never really fully developed with the Steelers. He had some nice plays, but his ball skills and his coverage was somewhat deficient. So I hope Ashton Davis I think he has more upside than Sean Davis had, but the athletic profile and the rawness is kind of a similar situation there for him.
You took the team fit right out of my mouth there, Roy. I think him sitting back behind McCourty would be a perfect fit, and nobody to better teach him how to be a pro safety than Bill Belichick. All right. Coming in at number 4, we have Antoine Winfield Jr., safety out of Minnesota University.
Yeah, and if you recognize that name, it's because he is the son of former NFL cornerback Antoine Winfield. So he's got the NFL pedigree. He's been around it his whole life. He as a freshman, he came in and made an immediate impact. He played in 10 games. He had 52 tackles, 2.5 tackles for a loss, an interception, 3 pass deflections, and 2 fumble recoveries. And then why we kind of forgot about him over the last couple of years, because he had 2 straight years where he got hurt at the beginning of the season. He played 4 games in 2017, 4 games in 2018, and even in those small sample sizes in 2017, he had 20 tackles and a 2 pass deflection, and in the 4 games in 2018, he had 17 tackles, an interception, and a fumble recovery. So even in a small sample size, he was still productive. And then we got to see what he could be when he's healthy for a full year this past season. He played in 12 games. He had 83 tackles. 53 of those were solo tackles, so over half of them he did by himself. 3.5 tackles for a loss. He had 3 sacks, 7 interceptions, 1 pass deflection, and 2 forced fumbles. This past year, he was named first team AP All-American, and he was a first team All Big Ten player. His strengths, he's a ball hawk. He just has a natural ability to be in position to make a play. That I forget who they were playing against, but that play in the red zone where he just sticks up his one hand out of nowhere and intercepts the ball it just shows how he can just get to the ball, make a play. He's great at recognizing these plays, recognizing routes develop, and as they develop, he relies on his great instincts, and he can react and jump in front of those balls or just make sure he's right there in position. And somehow he's always in position if a ball gets tipped by another defender, and he's right there to catch it. And we got to see that with those 7 interceptions that we saw this last year. And I think he's a great tackler. He takes solid pursuit angles to get there, and he's not afraid to come up. He breaks down and he will hit somebody. He's one of those best tacklers in the safety class, in my opinion. Some of his weaknesses, obviously, I kind of brought it up. His injury history. He dealt with hamstring and foot injuries. I know I have not heard anything on it, but I know like his medical grade is going to be a big thing on where he can go, because in my opinion, he has a talent to be a first-round player. I just think because of his small stature as well with the injury history, it's going to cause him to go in the second round, because he's 5'9". He only has 30 and 1/8 inch arms, so kind of a smaller guy. Which why I kind of, when I get to my player comp, is why I compare the both of them, because they're got both in the same size frame. And as far as some other weaknesses, I don't think he's that fluid when he turns his hips and runs. So I don't know if he's going to be that great of a man coverage when he first comes in. His short range burst, I think, is kind of average. I think if his instincts don't get him there first, he can kind of be out of the play. And then his deep range can be limited as well. But I still think that's something he can improve upon when he gets to the next level.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite players to watch as a pure football fan. Like, you just see that organic ability to always be around the play, whether it's in run defense or a pass play. He's the guy that's, coming up with the interception or coming up with a key pass defense in big time situations. And as you touched upon, his instincts is what gets him there. His ability to process the play quickly is there and up on par with the best in this class. And as a run defender, he's a sure tackler. And for me, if he's going to be playing, in my opinion, a lot of slot duties or over the top, I want that security blanket, knowing he's going to come down with the tackle in key situations. He doesn't have the athleticism as maybe some of the rest of these guys here, especially with his build only being 5'9". He's going to be limited in where he's going to be able to impact the game. But if you have a certain situation where you want him to be exposed in, is you want him to be able to sit in zone and react. As you touched upon, if you put him in man situations, unless it's on slot receivers, and even there, I think because of his transitional skills, he's not going to be able to carry them throughout the duration of a route. So you're really going to have to pick and choose where you want him to be, but allow him to just play within himself and play disciplined ball, use his instincts, and he's always going to come up with a big play. But he's going to be limited somewhat on how you're going to be able to deploy him. So for me, he's more of that overhang safety slot type corner, and you're going to let him just sit back in zone and make plays on the ball.
Yeah, not much left to add on that, other than he's kind of the opposite of Ashton Davis. He's got the instincts that get him there quick enough, but he's not the most rangy safety. He's not going to have one of those, plays where he comes completely across the field to make the interception. He's just in the right place at the right time, because he knows how to read plays. He knows how to understand what's going on around him, and instincts are everything. If you're a half second faster in terms of reaction time, you're going to be there, a whole second earlier, and it pays dividends to know the game, and he's right there. So I don't know if his ceiling is up there with the rest of these guys, but definitely year one starter, he could easily have the biggest impact.
Yeah, and our team's fans of him. He's currently right now number 36 on our big board. To me, like I've already said, he's a day 2 prospect. I think he's gonna for sure. I think he does go in the second round. Similar to Ashton Davis, though, with the whole medical grade and all that, I could see him following if he does fail for his medical grade. Team fits. I think he could go to the Cowboys. I think they need as much secondary help as they can get. The Eagles, of course, they just lost Malcolm Jenkins. They need some guys in the safety room. I put Vikings on there because it's potential they'll lose Anthony Harris. Harrison Smith is getting older, and his dad played for the Vikings, so I thought it'd be pretty cool to see him in a Vikings jersey. Seattle Seahawks, they could always. Pete Carroll just loves his smart secondary type of guys. Antoine Winfield's that, and then the 49ers too. I know they re-signed Jimmy Ward, but he's only on a 1-year deal, so they could plan for ahead. And as we saw them kind of get lit up by Patrick Mahomes, they probably want as much secondary guys they can get. And you kind of said what I said as far as his projected rookie year, Jack. I put him down as a solid DB rotational player used in certain packages, and I think he's a potential starter in the right situation, just depending on the team he goes to. His career floor, to me, he's a solid contributor to a defensive unit. I have my worries if he's going to be available for all 16, 17 games because of his injuries. But if he can have a healthy career, I see an all-pro safety used like Tyrann Mathieu. That's my player comp. He's got a knack for getting the ball, creating those turnovers, and being at the right place at the right time. And he's one of the sure tacklers. And if he needs to, he can be a punt returner as well. He did return a touchdown in college as well. So I see a higher ceiling, I guess, with him, but he's got to be healthy to reach it.
Size-wise, tackling, I could definitely see that. I don't know if he's as athletic as Tyrann Mathieu, but it's definitely it's not a bad comp.
I mean, he ran in the 4.4s at the combine, so he did show off his athleticism.
For me, that's a pretty strong comp. I think that would be, like you said, his ceiling. Yes. For me, what I see his comp being and what the player he's going to develop into is more along the lines of Desmond King for the Chargers. When he came out of Iowa, had a pretty similar skill set, athletic prowess, and the ball skills. If we're talking about pure instincts, I think Winfield might be better. I would actually think that his instincts, especially in run pursuit and tackling ability, are a little bit more similar to Mike Hilton for the Steelers because he has that closing quickness and the ability to get to a spot quicker than other people. So if you could blend the pass coverage instincts of Desmond King and the run tackling ability and instincts in run pursuit of Mike Hilton, that'd probably be what I look at for Antoine Winfield.
All right, coming in at number 3, I should say, Kyle Duggar out of Lenoir-Rhyne.
Yeah, Kyle Duggar, he's a small school guy out of Lenoir-Rhyne. I'll be honest, I had to reach and find his stats. It's not as open out there. I went to his little college bio, so hopefully his school wasn't boosting him too much. But if you watch the tape, you understand how he made all these plays. But yeah, as a freshman, he came in right away and made an immediate impact. He played in 10 games. He had 43 tackles, 4 interceptions, 6 pass deflections, and 2 fumble recoveries. He was named the South Atlantic Conference Defensive Freshman of the Year. As a sophomore, he played in 10 games. He doubled his tackle number all the way up to 87 tackles. He had 57 of those were solo tackles. And as a punt returner, he averaged 9.9 yards per return. He had 1 return touchdown. He was named second team all conference that year. His junior year, he really showed out as well. He had 14 games, 76 tackles, 3 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. He was first team all conference as a defensive back and a returner, second team all region, honorable mention All-American, and he won the Special Teams Player of the Week award, and he became the first player in their school history to return 2 punts for touchdowns in the same game. Now, his senior year, he had to deal with an injury. He only played in 7 games, but even though he only showed up in 7 games, he was given the Cliff Harris Award, which is given to the best defensive player in Division II football. He was a first-team All-American. And then he also, the AFCA and the D2CCA awarded him second team All-American honors, first team All-Conference, first team All-Region. And then again, He was named the Special Teams Player of the Week when he again returned two punts for touchdowns, and then he becomes the only player to have 2 games with 2 punt return touchdowns in school history. So he could come in, play special teams as a returner. This is a guy we got to see at the Senior Bowl, and so obviously the competition level was a question, and I think he showed out at the Senior Bowl. That's when I really fell in love with him as a player and as a person when our boy here, Roy, got to interview him. But as far as his strengths, he's versatile. I think he played deep safety. I think he's got the size where he can play in the box and even line up as a backer in like third down situations to give him more of a speed at the position. If you have a linebacker that plays maybe 1 or 2 downs, again, I already talked about the special teams. I think he's got great instincts. He jumps on routes, gets the interceptions or to pursue the running back. He's a very physical player. He'll come up and lay a thud. He's one of the surest tacklers as well in this class. And I think he does take great pursuit angles. Now, obviously, he has some injury history. He didn't play his full senior year. He also did have a medical redshirt year as well. So there is some injury history concerns. You can go there. You can wonder if his body's going to be able to keep up with that at the next level. He's not super fluid when he needs to flip his hips and run with a guy. So I do wonder if he gets mismatched sometimes with these really great offensive coordinators in the NFL. If he's gonna be able to keep up with the a slot wide receiver, if they can line that up. His play recognition, he doesn't read the quarterback's eyes that well, I think. If his instincts don't get him there, he can be delayed. His technique when he's running around, I think his footwork, as far as when he's matching up on man-to-man, again, I think is my more concerns with him is his man-to-man coverage, and if he'll be able to do that at the next level. Again, Senior Bowl, he showed that he could play with the next level guys at the college level, but obviously there is a concern if he'll be able to keep up the NFL speed of the game from day one.
Yeah, you touched on a lot of things there at Duggar. As you said, at the Senior Bowl, he was putting on a show. He was flashing his skill set, his athleticism. When you watch his tape at Lenoir-Rhyne, you could tell he was a man amongst boys, especially as a punt returner. I'm not so sure he's going to be able to convert that to the NFL level, but he can see lanes develop as a punt returner very quickly, and he's very decisive getting upfield. So he'll have that definite added experience and added value to a team where he'll be able to contribute initially. As a pure safety, I see him better coming downhill in pursuit than he is in coverage. Not saying he can't do it. I just think he's going to have to go to the right team fit. If you're going to ask him to play a lot of man-to-man with receivers, as you said, with him not being as fluid in his transitional skills and being able to process maybe a step late, I think he's going to get exposed if you ask him to play a lot of man against receivers. Now, if you drop him down the box in sub packages and let him line up and use his physicality against tight ends, he could be that type of player in man. But against receivers, he would get exposed. As in zone, his instincts allow him to get him to the place and be a difference maker at the catch point because of his length and his aggressiveness. But it's that physicality when he comes down and lays a thump. It's pretty impressive. I do have some concerns, like you said, with his injury history. Also, that he'll be a 24-year-old rookie coming from a D2 level. If you have a little bit of a time of adjustment, he's already 24 compared to some of these other guys that might be 21, 22 years old for the duration of his career. How many contracts, second contract, he'll already be close to 30 years old. So that's a couple of the concerns I have, but he is a fun player to watch. I'm excited to see how he transitions from the second level. At the Senior Bowl, the situation didn't look too big for him. He adjusted quite well. He's a humble kid, and I know he's going to work his butt off.
Definitely one of my favorite players to talk to at the draft or at the Senior Bowl this year. He's definitely a student of the game type. Loves the game. Is somebody who is passionate about the sport, so that's always a good plus. I really don't want to repeat too much what you guys said. The hip fluidity is something I did notice in him in man coverage, but he was clearly, without a doubt, the best DB at the Senior Bowl. It showed that the jump and competition level did not matter. We'll see if he can translate that from Senior Bowl competition level to NFL competition level. That scares me a little bit. The injury history, the age, like Roy alluded to, it may drop him back a little more than we think the talent should. just because, that second contract, him coming up on the age of 30, it's going to be one of those things. Just depends on how much you love him, how much you're tied to him, and if you think he's going to be a long-term answer at the position. At the very least, he's going to be a rotational player. We see more and more of these teams going to a 3 safety rotation instead of just having 2 solid guys, knowing that you have one in case the safety goes down, especially when you have, lower body extremity injuries that consistently come up with a lot of safeties. Who knows what happens and where he goes, but there is some really good fits, and I'll let you jump into those, Cody.
Yeah, and we're obviously fans of him from Blitz. He's actually number 40th on our current big board. As far as where he could go, I still think there's a sneaky possibility he maybe go at the back end of the first round, but I think he will probably end up going second round, possibly fall into the third round with the injury concern and as the age concern, like what Roy alluded to. Some team fits I got like the Chicago Bears. I think he could fit with the New York Giants. I think he could complement a guy like Jabril Peppers pretty well. Miami Dolphins, they just need as much talent as they can get. The Browns, they need some safety help. And then the Buccaneers, like I said, I think your Bucs need as many secondary pieces as they can get. And as his projected rookie year, I think he can, like you said, he's not going to maybe flash as a special teams returner, but I feel like if you need a guy that won't I feel like he's a safe returner. He'll at least catch the ball. You don't have to worry about him fumbling it. Maybe if everything falls right, he can return it for a touchdown. I think he's coming as a rotational safety, playing certain packages. He's another guy I think that can start in the right situation depending on where he goes. His floor to me, he's going to be a special teams player, a starter level safety that can be valuable in a defense. And he doesn't have the highest ceiling to me. I think he'll be a do-it-all player within the right defensive scheme that can use his skill set to their advantage. But I do think he does offer some Pro Bowl potential. And just because of the way he can jump on routes and rely on his instincts to get in front of balls, to get those interceptions, to get those pass deflections, my player comp for him was Trey Boston.
Yeah, there's 2 teams I'd really like to see them go out and get Duggar at this point, and I think they would be able to use him to the best advantage. And that's the Dallas Cowboys or the Seattle Seahawks. I think that's those type of systems where it's like a press zone and they could play the deep third, come downhill, or maybe have switch in and out with Clinton Dix now in Dallas or Quandre Diggs in Seattle. He could be the bigger safety type, almost in the Cam Chancellor mold, not saying he's Cam Chancellor, but have that, downhill ability, but also have some coverage ability in certain spots. I think that's going to be his best fit. I see his player comp in more of a mold of a Keanu Neal, who can come down, lay some, bone-jarring hits, but also contribute in the pass coverage game as well.
I like that comp very, very good. And again, whatever team needs a little bit of extra assistance in the run support, that's where Duggar's going to fit, and that's where I think Duggar's likely to go. If you've got a rangy safety, he's not that guy. He doesn't need to be that guy. He needs to be, downhill, in the box, coming after whoever's got the ball, and then making plays where he can. And the fact that he is a special teams ace, I do think it'll translate. You see his vision in terms of being able to, he's not DeAndre Hall. He's not going to be, he's not a human highlight reel of a joystick, but he can make guys miss in open space. But it's all about vision as a punt returner. So I think that's going to boost his grade up a little bit. All right, coming in at number 2. Coming in at number 2, we have Grant Delpit out of LSU.
All right, yeah, Grant Delpit coming in as my number 2 safety this year. I know a lot of people are going to be down on him and want to rank other guys higher than him, but I still think he's one of the most talented players in this class. Definitely a round 1 guy, upside. But yeah, as a freshman, he's been a media contributor ever since he went to LSU. He played in 13 games as a freshman. He had 60 tackles, 3.5 tackles for a loss, an interception, and 8 pass deflections. His sophomore year is his best film that you can watch, where he really balled out, when he really made a name for himself. He played in the 13 games. He had 74 tackles, 9.5 tackles for a loss, 5 sacks, 5 interceptions, 9 pass deflections, and he had a fumble recovery and forced fumble. He was a first-team All-American and All-SEC. Now, his junior year, his play did drop off a little bit. From what I understand, he dealt with a high ankle sprain all year, which kind of he fought through. But he still was able to get 65 tackles, 4.5 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions. He still got 7 pass deflections and a fumble recovery and forced fumble. He was named a Jim Thorpe Award winner, so he was named one of the best. He was named the best D-back in NCAA that last year, second team All-American, and he was first team All-SEC. I still think he's the player that still has that high ceiling. His range ability is outstanding. He can play deep and jump on balls. I think if you put him back there as in that third deep range, and he can just sit back there and read and react, I think he can create a lot of turnovers at the next level. He's very explosive upfield. He can come down and close on run plays. He has the size that you want to battle with bigger wide receivers and tight ends to make contested catches. So I think you can line him up in the slot versus certain guys, especially if they want to line up tight ends out wide. And as in 2018, you saw that with the sack production. He was very effective as a blitzer. He can time it out right, and when he can explode off that ankle the right way, he can close down on that quarterback very quickly. And then he's just a versatile. He's one of these guys. He's a versatile skill set. I think he can be used in a variety of ways. I think you can line him up inside the box on downs. I think you can line him up in the slot and as a deep range safety. Now, his weaknesses, he does need to work on some of his pursuit angles. I think that's what really led to a lot of those missed tackles bring up. But his tackle form, he just used poor technique. He needs to break down more often and learn to wrap up and drive his shoulder into the guy. I know some people think he might have been dealing with some in his shoulder as an injury as well, which is why they think he might have laid off on some hits. If he was making a business decision, maybe I can understand that. But I do think he's got average hip fluidity. He can be tight when he needs to turn and run. His zone coverage ability, it needs to be tightened up a little bit. He could take himself out of the zone area, out of his assignment. And I just want to see him go back to his 2018 form. He just, like, when you watch him in that number 9 jersey, he just plays more like a dog. He's more feisty, it seems like. I just want to see him go back to that. Again, if he was fighting through an injury, I think you should give him credit for that. But yeah, I mean, where do you guys stand on him?
Yeah, for me, I love Grant Delpit, and I'm going to give him a pass, especially for his ability to play the deep third. His instincts and the ability to process plays quickly and get to a spot on the field. He's very good at disrupting the catch point. So for me, I value that even more so in one out of the 2 of my safeties that I have back there. If one can be a better coverage safety, I'll take it. If the other one can make up the difference in run support. I don't think he's a bad tackler. I think, as you alluded to, Cody, he's just dealt with a myriad of injuries last year. You were talking about shoulder pain. He did deal with shoulder pain throughout the whole entire year, as well as that ankle injury. He also missed all of spring preseason practice due to another undisclosed injury that we're not even sure of. It could be that shoulder injury before the season even started. He knew he had a problem going in with. Plus, he dealt with a broken collarbone in 2018 during the spring that required surgery. So he's had that litany of injuries that I can understand why, as you said, maybe he was making business decisions. His ability in coverage, though, he has man coverage skills. He has the hip fluidity to carry receivers for short distances. I wouldn't be putting him in man coverage outside often, but against tight ends, give me him all day, every day of the week. I think his tackling will improve. I think he'll get back to that form he was in 2018, as long as he can stay away from that shoulder injury. He needs to get it dealt with. If he has to have surgery and get it right, go for it. I think maybe in his best interest, if it's not right, you might have to redshirt him his first year. But the upside is there to be one of the best safeties in the NFL because of his instincts and processing skills.
If we see the 2018 version of Grant Delpit, it's a home run hit. If we see the 2019 version where he's completely injury riddled, then it's going to be hard to see him have a good career in the NFL. But I think you're getting the 2018 version. Again, if you have to redshirt him. But he's a stud. He's got the instincts. He's got the ball control. He's got the hip fluidity. There's nothing he can't do on the line, or from the bodying guys at the line of scrimmage, playing some linebacker at times, playing outside linebacker, being able to cover tight ends man to man. He can do it all. It's not amazing. He's not flawless by any means, But if we get 2018 version, I'm all for it. Take him in the first round and don't think twice. But the fact that we don't have the medicals, the fact that we're dealing with this COVID-19 situation, I think he's going to fall. I don't see him going in the first round, or I wouldn't be surprised if somebody takes a swing on it. But you want to hit home runs on your first round pick. You don't want to have a guy who, is only able to play 50% of the snaps, or every other year, he's getting hurt, and you don't know what you're getting from Grant Delpit. So I feel like his draft stock is going to slide due to that fact, and that you could see, and between him and Duggar, even though we have him higher on our list, we have him higher on our big board, you could see an Antoine Winfield Jr. go first. You could see an Ashton Davis go before these guys, because just the situation we're currently in. Teams can't get medicals on these guys, so who knows? It scares me. It would scare me, and I'm sure it scares GMs.
Yeah, and it might, but it did not stop our team from being high on him still as a player. He is currently number 15 on our big board rankings. He's a little bit lower on my personal rankings, but I still understand why people put him there. In my opinion, he can still go day one. I think you look at that back like 20, 25 on of the first round. If there's a team that needs that safety help and he's a top player on their board and the medicals check out, I still think he can go there, but he should definitely not fall out of the second round, even with those injury concerns. I think he's definitely worth a risk as a second round safety. I can see him going to the Broncos. If the Cowboys don't take one at 17, I think they should try to get him in the second round. The Eagles could need some help. Vikings, like I've already talked about, they're probably going to move on from Anthony Harris, so they have an opening in the other safety spot. And the guy I compare him to is kind of getting older on that team. And then obviously the Seattle Seahawks, as I talked about earlier, they could need somebody, especially with Quandre Diggs kind of being a guy that gets banged up often. And then Pete Carroll, I think, is a type of coach that can get him back to being that 2018 form. As a potential rookie year, I think he can be a starter. I think if he goes to the right situation, he can come in and start. I agree with you guys. If you want to redshirt him or maybe use him as a rotational player and use in certain packages, I can understand that too. If he goes to that right situation, maybe even in a place like New England, like you talked about with Ashton Davis, somebody you can sit behind and learn underneath Bill Belichick. His floor as a player, I think he'll be at least a rotational, versatile piece, a solid contributor to a defense. But I like we kind of talked about, his ceiling's through the roof if he can get back to his 2018 form. I think he's got all pro potential, a versatile safety thriving in a system, which is why I compare him to Harrison Smith. Harrison Smith, they're the same exact size. They're a versatile safety. They can play inside the box. They can blitz. They can get the interceptions. They can play as a deep third safety. So that's why my player comp to him as his ceiling is Harrison Smith.
Yeah, that's a solid player comp, Cody. I think that would be the 2018 version of Harrison Smith.
Yes.
That's what you're looking for, is that 2018 version, and that would be a home run pick if you could get that in the second round. For me, I see one team that I would love to see him go on, and they've had an affinity for acquiring a lot of LSU players in the last couple of years, and that's Cleveland Browns. I think they could really use that type of a safety over the top, that type of versatile skill set after striking out somewhat in free agency, not getting a safety for that back end of the secondary. But I could see them definitely targeting him. For me, right now, instead of looking at the 2018 version, a player, if we're just basing it off a 2019 tape, my player comp for him is Marcus Williams from New Orleans, who's a great pass defender, but also had issues coming from Utah in the tackling department. There were some questions. Now, he's gotten better since he's got to New Orleans. He's answered those questions, and it could be a very similar type situation with Delpit, to where he's a standout pass defender, and he's also tightened up those issues that he had in securing the tackles in the open field.
I think if it wasn't for this 2019 season he had, we'd be talking about Grant Delpit as a top 10 to a top 15 pick, and he would be in the Derwin James, Minkah Fitzpatrick kind of form. He's that talent. He has that much talent. He has that much upside. We just don't know what kind of player we're going to get. And again, because of these medical issues, I think he's going to slide. And some team is going to love him so much that they're willing to take the risk, so much so that I think they even move up in the second round to go get him.
Yeah, I could definitely see that happening.
All right. Coming in at number 1, we have Xavier McKinney, safety out of Alabama.
Yeah, this is my top safety on the board. I don't know why. If anybody's been following me the last 3 years, I have an affinity for Alabama defensive backs. But yeah, his freshman year, he didn't really do much. He only showed up in 4 games, so and the stat line wasn't even worthy of me speaking about. And then he came in and he started as a sophomore. He played in 15 games. He had 74 tackles, 6 tackles for a loss, 3 sacks, 2 interceptions. He had 10 pass deflections and 2 forced fumbles. And then he just continued to get better as a junior. He showed up in 13 games. Not doubled, but he increased his tackle amount and playing in 2 less games to 95 tackles. 59 of those were solo. He got 5.5 tackles for a loss. He still got his 3 sacks, 3 interceptions, 5 pass deflections, 1 fumble recovery. And he also forced 4 fumbles. He was a third-team All-American this year and a first-team All-SEC. He's just a guy I think is extremely versatile, and he's got such a high floor. I think he's going to be a player that you're going to see play throughout the year. I mean, throughout for a long career. He can be lined up all over the defense. He was lined up as a backer, a cornerback, a safety. When you look at the breakdown of how many snaps he got at all these positions, he's just as versatile as maybe you could bring up as like an Isaiah Simmons in this class. His route recognition is great. He's got high football IQ. I love his short quickness burst. It's great. He explodes upfield to get a tackle. He need to get a tackle or a sack. He's
Was
very
that the
fluid when he drops
creamsicle
back
kind of
and
creeping in?
Right. And he's very fluid, though. I think he can drop back pretty easily in coverage. I love how he can flip his hips with ease. There's this one, I forget the route that was run, but this guy ran a slant route and he was able to flip and still to stick on him and get the pass deflection. And he plays very physical. He will come up and hit somebody. Now, I do also attribute this to his strength. He comes from a Nick Saban coach, and everybody knows Nick Saban loves defensive backs, loves coaching defensive backs. So he's going to be ready to come in and play right away. And then but as far as some weaknesses, I do think he can be lost in his zone coverage at times. He allows a little bit too much separation. He needs to settle in. When he goes up for tackles, he can over pursue and not break down, which causes for a few missed tackles. Now, his long speed is a little concerning with me. He ran a 4.63 at the combine, so I do wonder if he's going to be able to keep up with some of the burners in the league, like a Tyreek Hill. I would like to see him convert more interceptions. He had plenty of opportunities to do so, and he just didn't get the job done. But he is feisty in man coverage, which does have some concern with me with getting holding calls and pass interference. And but I don't know, sometimes he allows these windows of separation. But again, I'm being really nitpicky with him because I think he's one of the surest safeties in this class that you know what you're gonna get with him. He just doesn't have a super high ceiling. I'm not sure where you guys stand on him, but I really like him as a player.
I'll jump in.
Yeah, go ahead, Jack.
I'll jump in. I think to touch on that, giving too much space, I think it's because he stares down the quarterback a little bit too much. You know, similar to what a quarterback staring down a wide receiver. He's always trying to read the quarterback and doesn't necessarily pay as much attention to the wide receiver. I don't think that's a flaw. I think that's something he just has to get a little bit better at doing. And knowing that he only runs a 4.63 and that he needs to be able to make up with instincts and being able to read plays. So it's a knock and a compliment at the same time that he has the ability to do that, but he can't rely on staring at the quarterback's eyes and trying to read where he's going to throw at all times. He needs to make sure that he keeps that separation to a minimum when it comes to the wide receivers, getting over the top of them. But there's not much he can't do. He played a lot of linebacker. He played a lot of, he came off the edge quite a few times. You know, we've seen that when he strip sacked Joe Burrow. There's a lot that he can do. There's very little he can't do. Like you said, alluded to, the ceiling isn't there in terms of the athleticism, but I don't think it has to be. He's one of those guys that as long as he can, he's got the football instincts to make up for it. A half second of instincts is a second worth of speed, and you make up for that timing super, super quick. I'd rather have someone know where to be than be fast and not be there on time.
Yeah, absolutely. Both you guys are just singing his praises, and I don't want to repeat what all you guys said because you hit the nail on the head. For me, if he had the type of speed and athleticism grades and that type of background, he would be in the top 10 conversation because he has the same type of versatility, the coverage awareness as a run defender as Minka Fitzpatrick. He just simply does not have the same athleticism as Minka. So for me, he checks every box you want in a safety. He can play in the box, over the top, in the slot, as a linebacker, blitzing. He's everything you want. He's assignment sound. He's the one guy I can say with a surety we will most likely see him go off of the board in the first round due to that versatility and not having no weaknesses. That'll be one of the guys we see in the safety class taken in the first round.
Yeah, I agree. I think his I guess ceiling of where he get drafted is the Cowboys. For whatever reason I keep on putting that in mock drafts. But he can go to various places like the Seahawks, maybe the 49ers at the back end if he falls that far. But I do believe just because with him just not having a lot of flaws in his game and with him coming from the Alabama system and he can be a day one starter, I think that's going to allow him to get drafted in the first round and a GM to be comfortable with that. As a rookie, I think he's got starter capability. I think he can play on all three downs as a versatile piece as we keep on talking about him as a player. And as his floor, I think he's at least a solid starter, used in a variety of ways, a long-time player in this league. His ceiling to me, I think he's a Pro Bowl safety. I think if he has the right years where he puts up big numbers, he can earn maybe an all-pro honor here and there. I'm not saying like he's an all-pro safety. I just think there's a way I can see him earning those honors. And I think if smart defensive coordinators use him, they'll use him like, I'm not saying he's the same type of player athletically, but they'll use him like Derwin James. Just line him up all over the place within your defense. And then my player comp for him, I got him as Jaquiski Tart, just a guy that's just a reliable defensive guy that can help up in run support. You know, he's pretty decent in coverage, and he can be a solid contributor to a defense.
Yeah, for me, I have one team I'd love to see him fit on, even though it kills me to say this, being a Steelers fan. I could see him fitting in with the Baltimore Ravens, being that they have Earl Thomas to play the deep third safety. They could let him and his versatility shine the whole way through, whether it's in the box, let him play linebacker, which has been a sore spot for them on sub packages, and play the tight end. I think that would be an ideal fit. They always covet Alabama players highly with Baltimore. So that'd be one team fit I could see. For me, I can see your comp in Jaquiski Tart. For me, I think his upside's a little higher than that. I could see him being a player more in the mold of Micah Hyde for Buffalo, who's a combination safety, can drop down the slot, drop down at linebacker, make some secure tackles. Kind of that whole game that you can just deploy him in a bunch of different ways.
You stole the team fit for me again, man. I'm going to have to start jumping the gun on you. I think him and Earl Thomas is a perfect pairing. That would make 3 Alabama DBs in that secondary, I believe. At least 2. I'm thinking 3. But for my player comp, actually, and this is what ties into it, is Tony Jefferson. I think he's a spitting image of Tony Jefferson. Not the most athletic, not freak athleticism, but just knows where to be, can play the run, is a solid athlete, and can play kind of all over the field, and has the build, has the frame to play linebacker. I mean, literally, if he put on 10 pounds, he would be an amazing linebacker. So it's not like he can't come down in the box and play. I can't wait to see where he goes, but that was my perfect fit because of you have Earl Thomas to play the back end and right in the middle play center field. He can have his not having to worry about getting beat deep. He would have work wonders with that. You see, I'm getting tied up right now because that's how much fun I would have seeing those two play together. All right. In terms of superlatives, Cody, that concludes the top 5 for us pretty much. What do you got? You got man, zone, tackling, playmaker, and run support. Who are your guys?
So I think one of the best man guys you can get after my top 5 is Julian Blackmon from Utah. He's got experience playing the cornerback position. and I think he'll probably be the best man guy you can get after that. My zone coverage is Terrell Burgess. I really like his ability to cover in zone, and he's kind of a versatile piece. I really don't like his man coverage skills too well, so I hope teams don't line him up in the slot like we kind of saw at the Senior Bowl. But I like if he could just sit back and read and be a communicator in the defense. Tackling Jalen Elliott, I think he's one of the better tacklers in this class. I think you're just going to get a guy that has plenty of experience at the position. He's a strong safety, and if you just need somebody that's going to be in position, he'll come up and play and make tackles. That's your guy. And then I know this is one of Roy's guys. My playmaker is Jeremy Chin. He's super athletic. I can understand. You can make an argument for me if I should have maybe had him in my top 5. I can see it. I just didn't see too much dominance that I would like to put him in my top 5, but I could see there, and he's definitely a guy from what I'm hearing and everything that you could see him potentially sliding in to the back of the first. And I think if you can get the right coach with his athleticism and they can use him all over, I think he can be a playmaker in the right defensive scheme. And I just remember seeing him at the Senior Bowl. I don't know if I was with you, Jack, or Roy, or the both of you, but I just remember we were standing by him, and I'm like, who is that guy? That guy looks like an NFL player because he's so big, and then he's super athletic. Yeah, I could see the very high upside of Jeremy Chin. And then run support is Antoine Brooks Jr. He's a safety and he's a safety in a linebacker's body. I wouldn't play him up high. He can his stack and shed ability is outstanding. He'll come up and hit and play with him inside the box, but I just don't know if you want him on the field too much during third downs.
Yeah, it wasn't too long ago. I mean, it was a few hours ago when when Roy really started introducing me to the film study that is Jeremy Chin. I do think, and we've been hearing about this for weeks now, that him creeping up into the end of the first, back of the second. When we watch his highlight reel, and the dude is good. He is good. Let's say that. I mean, 6'3", can play the run. Decent not a decent. He's a good tackler, and I think everything from playing at a small school translated to safety position more than any other position, because if he can fly around in the back end of a D2, he can fly around in the back of a D1. He can fly around in the back of the NFL. Secondary. So I'm really intrigued to see where he goes, and I would not be surprised. I was surprised he didn't slide into your top 5 with all these rumors of him being a round 1 prospect. Really not getting much rumors right now in the draft process like years prior, due to the situation we're currently in. And he's been the only one that's been talked about as this kind of surprise up and comer late in the draft process.
Yeah, you guys are right there. Jeremy Chin, a lot of people are getting on him late here. You watch his tape, there's not one ingredient that's not there that you want in an all-pro safety. Versatility-wise, it's basically him and Isaiah Simmons for skill set-wise. He ran a 4.41, jumped 41 inches at the combine. Simply, they used him at Southern Illinois the exact same way as Simmons: slot defender, cornerback, linebacker, free safety, strong safety, even outside linebacker. I believe I've seen him a couple plays playing. He was all over the field. His closing quickness is alarming, and it's not in a bad way. You can watch the tape. Jack watched it earlier. He closed on a blitz and about decapitated the quarterback because of how fast he was. I actually think that he's sewn up a spot in those last 4 or 5 selections in the first round. I think you're going to see him and Xavier McKinney as the first 2 safeties off the board, just because of that athleticism. You don't get very much in that skill set, and it's simply dynamic. Just talking real quick on a couple of these other superlatives. You had a great list, Cody. Terrell Burgess, I know you talked about him a lot when we were together down at the Senior Bowl. He's a great zone coverage guy. Don't put him in man. He'll get exposed. Zone coverage, though, he lets his instincts flow and go to it. Run support, if you're looking for another guy outside Antoine Brooks, maybe that late day 3, 6, in around 6th, 7th range. Josh Metellus from Michigan. A lot of experience playing strong safety, but also drop down the box a lot in sub package. Really secure tackler, sound in his assignments, and really good player. Geno Stone is also a guy that's a playmaker. from Iowa. He declared earlier from as a junior. Smaller body type, but is a versatile piece in coming downhill and has a lot of instincts. He'll get to where the ball is. He's always around the action, and good things happen. So just a couple names to watch throughout your day 3 process. Even a guy like Kayvon Wallace from Clemson,
Yes,
who's a
I
really
was
stud.
debating about him.
Yeah,
He's interesting. And then go ahead if you want to finish your point.
No, go ahead. You can talk about Kayvon Wallace.
Oh no, he's just. I think he's athletic. He's a versatile piece, and I think if the right defense coordinator gets a hold of him, he can turn into something. And worst case scenario, I think you got a special teams guy. Another guy too. I was debating. I just didn't know where I know he showed off his man skills. He's probably a day 3 guy. I know he was. I think I want to say day 1 of Senior Bowl practice standout is Alohi Gilman. Mm-hmm. I think he could be somebody that could thrive in the right system, like in a Bill Belichick type of way.
Yeah, he's a guy that's a special teams ace waiting to happen. He's a sure tackler, and he can lay some booming hits. He was a transfer from Navy, so impressive group. This has a lot of depth. It's just the high end. I don't think we're going to see a lot of picks in that first round. Second, third, that third day, you're going to have a lot of quality prospects still coming out.
All right, I think between my top 5 and Jeremy Chin, I can understand an argument for any of those 6 players to be the number 1 safety in this class. You can make it to me, and I'd understand it.
All right, another curveball question to throw at you guys before we take off out of here. If Isaiah Simmons was asked to play safety, is he the number 1 overall safety on this list?
I would say yes, just because you could line him up all over. Just as versatile, tested out of this world. I mean, I just go back to that play against Ohio State when he was lined up as a deep safety and he just reacted and jumped on that ball and got the interception off Justin Fields. That play sticks in my head all the time, and he did that with his size.
Yeah, if you were to put Isaiah Simmons at safety, I think it would be the biggest presence you'd seen since Troy Polamalu. With his speed, size, and ability to close, I think that would be the closest, because he doesn't have the ball skills of an Ed Reed, but that type of reactionary skills, I don't think you would have seen a player like him since Troy Polamalu type.
Yeah, and you can just, you want to line up like an Evan Ingram in the slot? Okay. I'm going to go ahead and put Simmons on him, and he's going to run stride by stride and flip his hips and lock on him. So, yeah, I think if you graded him out as a safety only, he probably would have been my number 1 safety, but I guess we're just sticking him at linebackers because that's what most of the NFL is going to do for now, but he's just a hybrid player.
Yeah, it really depends on where he goes, and there's several teams that will utilize him in different ways. Hopefully he gets to have that free range to where he can play slot, he can play inside linebacker, outside linebacker, a little bit of safety, and just do it all. That's what we're hoping, but that's going to take a creative genius as a D coordinator to be able to do so. And we all know there's a lot of teams that can't do that, and there's very few teams that can. Can you guys name any teams that you would see Isaiah Simmons going to? I know we'll talk about this more in the linebacking top 5s, as he will be obviously the number 1 linebacker. He could have made the top 5s as a cornerback. Let's be realistic.
I mean, like we said, we'll talk about him. Maybe team fits as a linebacker when we get to recording that one. But I mean, definitely like the Giants, because I do think the Giants need a safety help regardless, even if they use him as a linebacker. I think they need safety help. But I just have a feeling he's going to go to the Panthers, local team. If you watch and you look into how Matt Rule built his Temple teams, how he built his Baylor teams, he went for athletic guys. And I think his athleticism will be too much for them to pass on. And the fact that Luke Kuechly just retired, I think they need a playmaker within that Carolina defense.
Yeah, what a better way to establish what you want built in that system than to take a Simmons for Carolina. So I'm going to piggyback on Cody. Carolina is where I see he's going to go if he doesn't go within the first 5 picks.
As a Bucs fan, God, please, no. All right, guys, we appreciate y'all tuning in to our Top 5 Prospect series. We will be handling the rest of the prospects. We've got offensive tackles, guards, D tackles, safeties, and cornerbacks to go. So stay tuned for more. Anything, guys, where can they find you on Twitter?
I'm at Cody Talks NFL. Feel free to at me. I'm always open to talking football, and you guys will be seeing me here in the cornerbacks and linebacker ones, my top 5. So stay tuned.
Yeah, you can find me at Preacher Boy Roy. Come at me with any draft questions you have, or any comments you might have about some of our views here. We're doing this, and we're doing it big time over here at Blitz.
All right, you can find me at Jack Bourgeois, JackBoshwa on Twitter. Please make sure you go hit the like, subscribe, and share button on all platforms. This will be in podcast format too, so it'll be on Apple, Spotify, Google, SoundCloud, you name it. Check us out on all platforms, and we also have all of these scouting reports, which are embedded with our patented weighted one-of-a-kind scouting metric. We're the first company to fully integrate an analytical equation into a scouting report. So if you want to read up more about these guys and get the good juicy deets, check out blitzalytics.com/scouting or blitzalytics.com and hit that scouting button link. Blitz out.